Torah garden, speaking the absolute truth. Torah nation.
Shalom, 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 Yashar'Al and Yahudah. Grafted in Gentiles into the body of Mashiach. We the people of the book broadcast is going down. Praising Yahudah for the witness, the Ruach accursed in the blood. Listening to Hallelujah. Song is entitled Pulling Down Strongholds. Listen, we in this bruise to tear down strongholds. We at war. Listen, this is none other than creation that I did through AI. I make no mistake about it. I didn't come up with it. But it's mine though. We pulling down strongholds. Abba Yahudah, we give you praise right now in the name of Yahushua Mashiach for the witness, the Ruach HaKodesh, the water and the blood. Abba, we stand in victory because of the blood of Yahushua Mashiach. Our witness is in his atonement. I thank you for the Ruach HaKodesh from my belly because it flows rivers of living water. And then she spake of the Ruach HaKodesh. Take the reins of my lips, the reins of my tongue, and reign by your Ruach. Abba, in the name of Yahushua HaMashiach, bring forth the Torah of Besorah to those that have an ear to hear. Abba, we bind demons and devils in the name of Yahushua HaMashiach. We pulling down strongholds. In the name of Yahushua HaMashiach, we bind in every demonic ruach, every unclean ruach, every ruach of fear and divination. We bind you. We have power to bruise your head. We tearing down your kingdom. In the name of Yahushua HaMashiach, I command you to loose the people of Yahudah. Let them go. We break every chain in the name of Yahushua HaMashiach. We have no fear in this game. Abba Yahudah, in the name of Yahushua HaMashiach, I praise you. I magnify you. I glorify you. Abba, I thank you for the keys to the Shamayim, that whatever I bind on earth is bound in heaven, and whatever I loose on earth is loosed in heaven. Abba Yahudah, you're worthy of the praise, you're worthy of the glory, you're worthy of the honor. Abba, let the words of my mouth, the meditation of my heart be acceptable in thy sight. Yahudah, my strength and my redeemer. Listen, I'm going to play that again. That's a two-minute song. I like the way it hit. The song is entitled Pulling Down Strongholds. You can listen to it on Suno. Pulling down strongholds, breaking every chain. Speaking absolute truth, ain't no fear in the game. Nations rise tall. The nation rise tall.
No fear in the game. Nation rise tall, let them feel the holy flame. Armor on tight, whispers bounced off the plate. Script carved deep, lining every word I state. The bruised we warriors, the chosen never late. Marching for the kingdom while the lions slip and shake.
Hallelujah. Listen, I done got into this and I done put together a few of them. Don't get it twisted. I love my Aki Hezekiah. Oh yeah, I love my Aki Hezekiah. I love my Aki Hezekiah. I love Jerusalem. I love the Torah and the Besorah. Understand this, right? Yahuwah's called me to cry loud and to spare not, right? Right? All this aside. Yahuwah's called me to cry loud and to spare not. To lift up my voice like a trumpet in Zion, to warn Yashar'Al and Yahudah, right? To to warn Yashar'Al and Yahudah, to warn those that are the other nations that in order to experience eternal life, they must go through Hamashiach Yahusha. They must receive his atonement. They must be born again of the water and of the Ruach HaKodesh. Yashar'Al and Yahudah, right? You must repent, right? So, again, this message is more in line with those who have already experienced this witness, born again of the water and the Ruach HaKodesh. And again, also to those that are of the other nation, and those who have not been born again as well. It's for everybody. It's for everybody that Yahuwah has chosen. That's a clarifier, because some of y'all hear it and y'all be like, with all of this negativity and stuff, it ain't for you. You don't like it, keep it pushing and move on. You know what I'm saying? You ain't got to drop down on me a bunch of man-made doctrines to try to sway me. Come on. Listen, just keep it pushing. It ain't for you. You heard it. It disrupted you. You didn't like it. Just keep it pushing. You know what I'm saying? I don't care about your opinion. Now if you got some Torah to support anything you say, I'd be open to hear it. But, all the rest of this, I don't think this, and you shouldn't be teaching this, and listen, man, shut up. Hear the word of Yahuwah. Be quiet, right? Right? Keep it pushing, right? So we're talking about warfare. We're talking about waging a warfare, and that warfare is actually in full effect, right? But there are different battles that are going to yet appear that's going to push you, right? Physically, mentally, and spiritually to a point where you're going to have to decide if you're going to be in the fray, right? And take the fight to the adversary, right? Or are you going to sit passively by and get trampled underfoot, pounded into powder, right? Because this battle, this warfare that we are choosing to fight because we believe the report, this battle that we're choosing to fight because we believe the report, right, comes with a promise of being kept and delivered and protected, right? It comes with eternal life if we endure the battle. You got to be prepared to fight it to the end, right? You got to be prepared to gauge war to the end. And listen, what you fighting for now? Right? Let's look at what you're fighting for now, right? In this United Snakes of America, right? What you fighting for? Right? What you fighting for? Right? What you fighting for in a land that's not yours? What you fighting for in a land that does not belong to you? Right? What are you fighting for in a land that's not Canaan? Right? Because Yashar'Al and Yahudah, you have a land, you have a territory, you have a place that belongs to you that is of Yahuwah, right? And that land is in sub-Saharan Africa, right? Make no mistake about it. This is not your land, right? I know some of you ain't gonna like this, but it don't matter. This ain't your home. This land don't belong to you. I got these brews talking about, yeah, well, we came over accursed on the 10 tribes, and this land belongs to us. What are you, crazy? You don't even know the scriptures. How could the land belong to you when the land of Canaan is your land? That is not Canaan. You went to a place where you found where no one dwelt. And if that land happened to be the Americas, this still ain't your land. You still are 12 tribes that belong to the land of Canaan, knuckleheads. I mean, come on. That's not even rocket science. That makes no sense. Yahudah allowed you to go to a land, right? A land that's not yours, right? When your land is Canaan, where you were supposed to have returned, right? But you went to a land other than the land of Canaan. What? So what you're saying is, you made a choice to go into a land that was not yours, right? But it says that no man dwelt. All right, okay, well, you went to a land where no man dwelt, right? If it's not the land of Canaan, he gonna gather you because that ain't your land. Make no mistake about it. I don't care what you say. I didn't come over here. I didn't come over into the Americas before the transatlantic slave trade. This is not our land. I am not indigenous to this land. My DNA is E1B1A. My genetic line goes back all the way to the Congo. My people are in Gabon. Listen, I know where my ancestry is. Right? I know where we were taken from. So what make you think that this land is mine? It ain't mine. I don't have a right to this land. There were lands that were divided. Let's go back. I got some people, man, that just downright knuckleheads, man. Honestly, somebody said, well, why you refer to them? No, because, they don't want to listen, they don't want to listen. They think they know, but they don't. They think they know. They think they know, they think they understand, but they really don't, right? Right? Let me see, where are we at? No, we gotta go back. We gotta go back. No, we gotta go back further than that. Here we go. Let's see, where's that? Looking for the division of lands. Okay, yeah, they divided secretly, right? Now, and the sons of Tubal, right now. Okay. Jubilees, the 10th chapter, right? Let's start at the 28th verse, right? Matter of fact, let's go. Oh, we can start 20. We can start the 20. Let's start 28th first, even though we're going to look at Ham or Cham. Is that right? 27. And in the 10th chapter, 27th verse. In the 4th week and in the first year, in the beginning thereof, in the 14th Jubilee, were they dispersed from the land of Shinar. Right? So, dispersed. They went into their own territories. And Shem and his son went into the lands which he was to occupy, which he acquired as his portions in the land of the south. Right? And Canaan saw that the land of Lebanon to the river of Mitsrayim, that it was very good. And he went not into the land of his inheritance to the west, that is to the sea, and he dwelt in the land of Lebanon eastward and westward from the border of Yardan and from the border of the sea, right? And they got to understand that the land of Shem was Middle Earth, right? Middle Earth, right? Lebanon ain't Middle Earth. Not where they got it now, right? Middle Earth, right? All right, okay. And Cham, his father, and Kush and Mitsrayim, his brother, said unto him, you have settled in a land that is not yours, right? You done came over to the United States of America according to your doctrine. You know, you 10 tribes took a ship and you made it over here to the United States of America to order to worship Yahudah. But if you look at Native American worship, it ain't got nothing to do with Yahudah. Okay. All right. Do not do so, right? He says, you have settled in a land which is not yours, and which did not fall to us by lot. Do not do so, for if you do so, you and your sons shall fall in the land and be accursed. Through sedition, for seditions ye have settled, and by sedition your children shall fall, and you shall be rooted out forever. Dwell not in the dwelling of Shem. Dwell not in the dwelling of Shem. For to Shem and his sons, the 12 tribes, right? To Shem and his sons, right? His son didn't come by their lot. And cursed are you, and cursed you shall be beyond all the sons of Noah, by the curse which we bore ourselves by an oath in the presence of the holy judge and in the presence of Noach our father. You cursed. So, by rights and lots, this land ain't yours. Yashar'Al, nation of Yahudah, this ain't your land. Tribe of Yahudah, this is not your land. It's not your land. I don't even care if you think you are of the 12 tribes and you ventured into the United States of America. It's still not your land because it ain't the land of Canaan. It's not the land of Canaan. What? This don't belong to you. Right? You should be expecting Yahudah to deliver you and bring you into your land. Because according to Scripture, he is to gather us and bring us to our own land. What do you want here? What? What has this United States ever given you? What has it ever provided for you that it hasn't taken back? What is this land that you are so attached to provided you? So much so that you're willing to get out on the streets and protest for something that doesn't even belong to you. It's Yahuwah's mercy and grace, right? That tabernacle that he has put in those who has received his witness that are born again in the water Ruach HaKodesh. He is tabernacling in you, right? He is preserving you, your interest in him, because you are from under the curse. That's if you're born again in the water Ruach HaKodesh. If you're not, you're still under the curse. You just need to turn, repent, and learn out the ways of the heathens, come out from among them and be separate, and recognize that this is not your land and that your land is sub-Saharan Africa, the land of Canaan. Middle Earth? Where the equator is? Okay. He says here, But he did not hearken unto him, and dwelt in the land of Lebanon for Cham, to the entering of Mitsrayim, he and his sons, and to this day. You ready to go to war. You ready to do battle. Right? Instead of looking for an opportunity to leave this wicked nation. They don't want you here. Right? They don't want you here. Some of y'all, listen. I know everybody in the United States aren't snakes. And I know there are those that are of the other nations that value who we are, recognizes the contributions that our people have made in relationship to their people and their progress in this land. There are those that are recognized scale is not balanced. There are those that are of the other nations that don't hate us. Right? But the snakes that run the show do. They hate them, actually. Why would you want to stay in a land that does not like you? Why would you fight for a piece of block that does not even belong to you? Yeah, see, I'm going to tell you something. I'm not even talking about defending yourself from those who look to destroy you, right? To protect yourself. I'm not even talking about that, because there's a time for weapons that are carnal. But in the witness of Yahudah, we have power. Right. What you fighting for? What you fighting for? A piece of block. Why are you fighting your brothers for a piece of block? Right? Why? Why you want a piece of land that they don't ever plan on letting you have? You want to hear something twisted, right? Like this how they play with things in the media, right? Or in movies, right? I happen to watch the movie G20, right? An American president. Black woman. Right? Black woman. Husband. Right? 2 kids. In the White House. The whole thing comes in. The whole conflict occurs at the G20 summit. Her person that is responsible for making her appointments and doing all of that was, I don't know if I should, who cares if I tell the movie, right? They were all co-conspirators, much other people, to try to take the governments and the nations hostage using Bitcoin. Right? Now, in this movie, she's former military president. Right? Her right hand man is a Spanish guy who does her training and her Secret Service guy. Right? Takes G. Simmons. Right? She's there to talk about how Africans and on the continent of Africa are starving because they're not getting the financial support they need to flourish as individual nations. Right? They want to switch the currency from dollars to Bitcoin. devils. The devils tell you everything. They switch the faces. They do certain things to draw you in. But the idea is they have a plan. They have a strategy. They have a strategy. They want certain things to collapse so that you have to do certain things. Right? Wicked nation. Of course, you know, because it's an American-made movie, it's American triumph in the end. You know, the black president, her whole family's protected and come through. You know, that's a healthy, beautiful change because it don't usually happen like that. They're the first ones to go in the movie, but you know, they was really the center of the movie. So you know, that was anyway. All right, what you fighting for? They already know what they're gonna do to you. Why you want to stay here? Why? Why would you want to stay here in a nation that does not want you? Why not go to a nation that will accept you? You know, and for me, that's the continent of Africa. And you know, you can still go to some of these other nations. You know, you can go to the Philippines, you can go to Taiwan if you want to. I mean, there's just places that you can go. You know, and you know, some of these Filipinos, they tend to be really nice people. You know, not Japanese and Chinese. You know, I don't know. They kind of, you know, there ain't a whole lot of love between us, right, as a people, right? But it doesn't change the fact that their interest in the nation is to create structure, right? Infrastructure. That's a win for us, right? They could be carpenters. For the time that Yahudah needs to use them, they can be the carpenters. Russia can be the carpenters. They're going to come. They're going to fray away, right? But what's in the United Snakes? What's really here? You know? What's really here? You know? What's in their interest? And what are you bringing to them that makes you worth having or keeping? Listen, we're at war. And the war is about to get more intense. The war is going to be more intense. There are going to be things that's going to radically start to change, right? You better know who you are with in this walk, right? For me to live is a Mashiach, for me to die is gain, right? I'm going to lay my life down for my brethren, those that are in the witness, those that are born again in the water, Ruach. Look, I'm going to go to war, battle. I'm going to go to battle with you in the Ruach. What you fighting for? This ain't your land. You know, I joined the military, right? I did. Joined the military. You know, served the United States, right? Right? Was treated unfairly on several occasions in the military because of the race of my skin. Because I know what I was dealing with. Right? Not to mention that they just didn't care. You know, they didn't care for us like that. They don't care for their own people either. In the military. It's about you know, advancing their agenda. You know, whether it's to go to war or whether it's to disrupt regimes, whatever it is, you know. We do it in the name of democracy. What is democracy? Is what we experience democracy? Right? Do we really get a vote? Is it staged or is it fanfare? Man of Yahweh, Yahweh at war. Right? But what you fighting for? Are you pulling down strongholds? Right? Are you breaking chains? Because the weapons of a warfare are not carnal. Listen. 2 Corinthians. Right? 2 Corinthians 10:3. For though we walk in the flesh, we do not war after the flesh. What you fighting for? Though we walk in the flesh, right? We do not war against the flesh. Now listen, there's a couple of things that you got to understand about this warfare. This warfare is spiritual first and foremost, and then it's natural. It's spiritual in the fact that as we who are born again of the water and the Ruach HaKodesh become established in this witness and have Yahuwah's Ruach HaKodesh and his power, right? We have the understanding and the necessity to move forward in physical confrontation if we need to. You know, we understand, right? He says here. Let's do it like this. He says. For the weapons of our warfare are not carnal, but they're mighty through Yahuwah to the pulling down of strongholds. What's he talking about? What was he talking about? How do I pull down strongholds? How do I wage a warfare that has spiritual components and natural components? Right? Weapons that are carnal, right? But there are weapons that are mighty through a Yahuwah to the pulling down strongholds. Right? How do I do this? He says here, for the weapons of our warfare are not carnal, but they're mighty through Yahuwah to the pulling down of strongholds. Right? Pulling down of strongholds. Right? How do we get, right? That are pulling down the strongholds. The weapons of our warfare. I haven't thought about it. It's in Genesis. For the weapons of our warfare are not carnal, but they're mighty through Yahuwah to the pulling down of strongholds. Right? The pulling down of strongholds. Right? Casting down imagination. So this warfare, right, is a warfare that has something to do with how we become mentally affected, right? To move in a way that is going to present victory, or that's going to lead us or convince us of defeat, right? Casting down imaginations and everything that exalts itself against the knowledge of Yahuwah. What exalts against the knowledge of Yahuwah? Who spearheads? Who spearheads, right? Who spearheads this assault, this attack in the imaginations or minds to try to strategically position you to defeat? warfare dealt with. Right? He says here, casting down imaginations. Right? Casting down imaginations. Casting down imaginations. Right? Right? Weapon. Right? It's weapons. Right? So, the imagination has everything to do with the weapons that are employed by the forces of darkness. The same imaginations, right, that Hasatan sends to us are the same imaginations that these wicked nations, these wicked snakes sent to us via media, TV, radio, to position us so that we roll over or that we are moved in the imaginations that they have placed in us. And you know something, right? When you get a negative thought, right, and you entertain that negative thought takes you to a whole dark side. Casting down imaginations, right? Casting down imaginations, right? Imaginations, right? The act or power of forming a mental image. Mental images that Hasatan presents. These are his tools. These are his weapons. These are his arrows. These are the things that he launches at you to defeat you, to maim you, to cripple you, to kill you. Because you know, thief, Hasatan is the thief. He's the thief of power. He took Eve and Adam's power. He's the thief of power. He uses vain imaginations. Right. The act or power of forming a mental image of something not present to the senses or never before wholly perceived in reality. He draws you into conversations. He gets you thinking a certain way. These ways that he wants you to think and move are designed to take your power, to take your strength. These missiles, these darts that he uses are designed to affect you so that you can't wage a good warfare. The media tries to defeat you, tries to put things in your mind to make you believe that this situation, right, demands your attention and action, right. You need to stand up and get to the streets. Yeah, that's a vain imagination. A creation of the mind. See, because listen, like again, you know, it's again, it's the mind, right? Right? Genesis 3:1. And the serpent was more subtle. He was subtle. Right? Hastan, demons and devils are subtle. They ain't really ever in a hurry to get you. They rather slow walk. One suggestion, then another suggestion. Right? These suggestions create thoughts. Right? These suggestions, right, act as mental images, right, of something present to the senses or wholly or never before wholly perceived as reality. Right? Right? Never perceived wholly as a reality, right? Right? Now the serpent was more subtle than any beast of the field which Yahudah made. And he said to the woman, more subtle. Right? Right? Haveth Yahudah said, ye shall not eat of every tree that's in the garden. Subtle. Right? 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 Imaginations. The latter part of that, and this is Merriam-Webster incidentally, the act of power of forming a mental image of something not present to be the sense to the senses, what you see, what you hear, what you smell, what you touch, right? Never before wholly perceived in reality. It was never formally perceived as a reality that Yahudah, right, had lied. But Hasatan would lead you to believe, right? 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 He says here. And the serpent said unto the woman, we can eat of the fruit that's in the tree of the garden. That's the Torah. Yahudah said they could. But the fruit of the tree which is in the midst of the garden, Allah said, ye shall not eat, taste, senses. We shall not touch, senses, right? Lest we die. Warfare. This is how Hasatan engages you in the spiritual aspect of warfare. Right? Because this is a constant attack barrage that comes in different forms and shapes and sizes at different times. Right? He says, and the serpent said to the woman, Yahudah lied. The serpent said unto the woman, you shall not surely die. So now, she's received something that creates a mental image that calls into question her belief in the Torah of Yahudah. She now does not no longer believe that what Yahudah said is true. Right? Because it says here, he says, for Allah knows that in the day that ye eat thereof, that your eyes shall be open, and ye shall be as gods, knowing good and evil. Imagination. Be like the Most High. We'll know good and evil. Right? Right? So when the woman saw, senses, that the tree was good for food, it's good for food. It was pleasant to the eye. It looked nice, shiny, and whatever. Right? And the tree to be desired. Right? A tree to be desired, and a tree to be desired to make one wise. She didn't believe the truth of Torah, and she believed the lie that Hasatan presented. that engagement in warfare was successful. So much so that the consequences of this disbelief in the word of Yahudah brought a judgment upon the entire earth. He says, she took the fruit and did eat. And then she gave it to her husband and he did eat. They lost. They lost their power because he's the thief of power. He took it. Right? Right? Their weapons of their warfare from this point on became carnal. There was no taking of life, right? There was no incursion on other people's lands and property. There was no me brought into a land taken from what do Torah call the people to steal? Men stealers. Brought into a land, and in this land that they stolen, expect me to claim rights to the lands that were stolen. Right? They had a constitutional thing called birthright. Birther's right. They was born in the United States at least 4 generations. Right? Slaves never meant to be nothing more than property. Say my land. Say my home. This ain't my land. Yashar'Al, Yahudah, this ain't your home. This ain't your land. This is not Canaan. You decided. If you're saying that this is that people that left and decided to go to another land where no man dwelt, right? No man dwelt. And the people that were here before you, they ain't even want to be 1A. They don't have the same genetic father. You ready to go to war with these nations? Ready to fight over some land that ain't yours? Ready to defend this nation that ain't yours? Right? What has that ever gotten us? What has that ever gotten us? What has that ever gotten us? The United States of America can be a beautiful place, right? If it's given back to the people that it originally belonged to. Right? And if they go back to where they belong to. And let us go back to where we belong to. United States could be a beautiful place again. It takes some years because they done jacked it up just like they jack up every place they go to. Warfare. So we're talking about Satan and how he, by deception and manipulation, takes your power. Right? Because he's a thief. We're talking spiritual warfare. We're talking spiritual warfare, right? We're talking spiritual warfare. The kind of warfare in which your weapons aren't carnal. but they're mighty through Yahudah to the tearing, the pulling down of strongholds. Pulling down strongholds, breaking every chain. Why? Because we done bruised. We are a people that are called by his name, that when we turn to him through faith in Hamashiach, become supernatural. Become supernatural. We become powerful by virtue of that which he puts in us. We become powerful, he says here. We cast down imaginations and every high thing that exalts itself against the knowledge of Yahudah. And we bring into captivity that which Eve did not do. Havah did not do that. The woman didn't do that. She didn't make Hasatan obey. She had authority to, she had power to, but she didn't make him obey. She didn't operate in the authority that she had. She gave him a Torah. And then after that, he gave her something else. And she didn't give him another Torah. And she didn't take authority over him. She didn't tell her man, Adam, we have someone in here speaking against the Torah of Yahudah. The two could have put 10,000 to flight, but the one subdued the other and convinced them to share in their unbelief. Producing sin. Hasatan gets keys. The death, hell, and the grave. He gets dominion on the earth. On the earth. All because he effectively dealt with imaginations. He launched an attack against the mind. That's why, sometimes you gotta be careful when, you get this thought and you start having a conversation. Conversations you have between yourself. Some come in and you be like, yeah, da-da-da, but da-da-da, yeah, da-da-da. Sometimes you have a conversation verbally. Right. And you need to ask yourself who you talking to. Who's presenting the imagination that's generating the conversation? Spiritual warfare. Casting down. How does one cast down imagination? First and foremost, you must have power. You must be the recipient of an authority that has been given to you from on high, because you've received the witness of Yahushua HaMashiach in faith. You believe in his atoning blood. You have Yahuwah give you his Ruach HaKodesh. You operate in a power and authority in the earth in the name of Yahushua that casts down imaginations. All right, let's go to, let me read this. Let me read this real quick. Casting down imagination and every high thing that exalts itself against the knowledge of Yahudah. Every lie that Satan tells is designed to exalt his knowledge over Yahuwah's. Therefore, when you concede to his knowledge, you are operating in disbelief in the Torah and the knowledge of you. He says, and bringing into captivity, right? Locking up, binding. See, in order to do anything, you got to have keys, right? I think I used this illustration before, you know. I got a house, right? Right? If I give you the key gives you the right to come into the house at will because you have the key. I've given you the keys to go in the house. If I got a car and I say, hey, here's the spare keys, you got the right to take the keys and drive the car because I've given you the keys. Yahudah has given us the keys to operate in the authority, the power Acts 1 and 8. But ye shall receive power, authority, to wield weapons that are spiritual. Willed by a power that is based on my belief in the Torah, which says to me, but ye shall receive power. Therefore, I can wage a warfare, a successful battle, obtaining victory after victory after victory because I have power. He says, and ye shall receive power after the Ruach HaKodesh come upon you, and ye shall be my witnesses both in Jerusalem and Judea and Samaria and the uttermost parts of the world. Now listen, Hasatan is interested in engaging you in battle in order to prevent you from accomplishing your goal, your mission. That which Yahusha and Yahudah has left you in the earth to do, building the kingdom. You are Yahusha's replication on the earth. You are to be a demonstration of that same said righteousness, bringing forth a Torah that will bring people to repentance. You have to cry aloud. You have to spare not. You got to lift up your voice. He says here, you shall receive power. Right? To be witnesses. To be his witness in the earth. To conduct warfare. To effectively work within the ranks. Knowing the strategy of the enemy. The strategy is crystal clear. Hasatan advances in you as you give him power over you by virtue of the thoughts that he places in your mind that you entertain and then act on. See, but when you're in the battle, having heard the words of demons and devils, and you recognize what they say, what you do. What's your next step? Right? What do you do? Right? Right? bringing into captivity every thought, making it obey. How do you make a thought obey? Exercising an authority. But it is not necessarily what you say, but what he has said that you speak. Let me see. That's not what I'm looking for. Is it Matthew? I'm looking for Matthew. Nah, yeah, I'm gonna get to that one. It's not Mark. Okay. Matthew 4. Right. And Yahushua was led by the Ruach HaKodesh in the wilderness to be attacked, to enter into warfare, to gain the victory, to reassert his dominion. And when he had fasted 40 days and 40 nights, and afterward he was hungry. And when the tempter came to him, he said, if thou be the son of Yahudah, thought by word, seed into his mind, right? He says, if thou be the son of man, it is written, right? If thou be the son of man, command these stones to be turned to bread. Right? See, now you know you had the power, right? You had the power. You took 3 fish and 5 loaves of bread. He could multiply and make whatever he wanted to make because he was the Torah. He had a dominion in the earth by his word because he was the Word made flesh. Right. So what did Yahushua do? When Yahushua answered this conversation, there was probably a physical conversation, but it's still in principle the same. When even the devil said to you, listen, man, you fasting, you ain't got to fast no more. Go ahead in that refrigerator and get that this and get that. Go ahead. It's okay. It's all good. Right? What do? When you're under attack, when you're experiencing warfare, what do? He says here, Yahushua said, but Yahushua said, it is written, man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceedeth out of the mouth of Yahudah. There is life in a Torah speaking out of your mouth. There is victory over Satan, demons, and devils as you say a word, a Torah, out of your mouth. The man shall not live by bread alone. You know, scripture. By every word that proceedeth out of the mouth of you. Wow. That was okay. Let me hit you again. Because I had hit Eve twice. Right? He says, and the devil taketh him into the holy city and setteth him on a pinnacle of the temple. And he said, if thou be the son of Yahudah, just cast thyself down, for it is written, he shall give his angels charge concerning thee, and in their hands they shall bear thee up, lest at any time thy foot dashes against a stone. Ooh, he quoted scriptures now. But his methods are for his own interest, in an attempt to get Yahushua to destroy himself. What did Yahushua do? And Yahushua said unto him, it is written, thou shalt not tempt Yahudah thy Lord. I'm not going to tempt Yahudah. Because you tell me to throw myself down. And, you know, technically, I probably could have. You would have. Right? But I'm not going to use the Torah in an unrighteous way. And the devil again took him to a high mountain and showed him the kingdoms of the world and the glory of them. And he said unto him, all these will I give thee if you just bow down and worship me. All right, I've entertained you enough. I've given you a Torah, right? I've entertained your conversation. But now, listen. And you should say unto me, get thee hence. For it is written, thou shalt worship Yahudah thy Elohim, and him only will you serve. Get out of here. The battle, the warfare. Right. The imaginations, the thoughts. Those things that he generates in order to position you for failure. Those things that he do to get you to yield, to stumble, to fall. The attack on the mind. Right. But what do you do? Right? What do you have at your disposal? Well, if we understand that we have received power after the Ruach HaKodesh has come upon us. I'm talking about us who've been born again of the water, blood, and Ruach HaKodesh and received the witness of Yahushua Mashiach. I ain't talking about the earth pig. I ain't talking about Jesus, Jesus. I ain't talking about the Lord. I ain't talking about all. I ain't talking about none of that stuff. I'm talking about the witness of a Hebraic Messiah, Yahushua HaMashiach, the Anointed One, and his Abba Father, Yahuwah. Listen. Finally, my brethren, be strong in Yahuwah. Ephesians 6 and 10. Right? Be strong in Yahuwah. Right? Right? And in the power, and you shall receive power after the Ruach HaKodesh come upon you. And in the power of his might, it's given to you. But it's him standing in you, or standing up in you. It's the name and the authority of Yahushua standing up in you. Now, you know, when you get to a point where you recognize that there is a battle, you understand from a military perspective, there is a suit. You gotta be suited and booted. You gotta have your boots, you gotta have your BDUs, your battle dress, you gotta have your, you gotta have your vest, your plates. You gotta get your, at my time it's an M16, but the ARs now. You got these, you had to have your gas, you had to be ready for anything and everything, suited and booted. You got your magazine belt with all your magazines in it, loaded up, ready to go. Because you get ready to go to the fray. You get ready to go into the fray. You can't just enter into the fray without yourself being booted and zooted. Booted and zooted. Suited and booted. You got to be. Be strong in Yahudah and the power of his might. Right? You ain't got to do it yourself. All you got to do is believe in the power of his might in you. Right? All you got to do is believe, Matthew 16:19, I will give unto thee the keys to the kingdom of the Shem. And whatsoever you bind by authority on the earth in operation of the power to pulling down of strongholds, right? Whatever you bind on heaven, whatever you bind on earth is bound in heaven. And whatever you release on earth is loosed in heaven. Right. Armor. He says here, finally, put on the whole armor, that ye may be able to stand against the wiles of the devil. Listen, the devil's got wiles. What are the wiles of the devil? Listen, look at the wiles. Right. Wiles. Right? See, Hasatan is cunning, but you have to understand that you got to be cunning too. Right? But you have to be cunning in the word of Yahudah. Right? What are the wiles? Right? What? Tricks. Strategies. See, once you know Hasatan's strategy, right, you understand that he comes sowing seeds. Right? He comes sowing seeds. He's coming to put something in your thoughts, right, that you have to deal with instantaneously. You can't allow it to take root, because then it springs up and grows into something that is not real. Tricks, stratagems intended to ensnare or deceive. He wanted to deceive Yahusha into jumping off the pinnacle. What? I'm not tempting Yahudah. He wanted to deceive, trick Yahusha to break a fast by turning stones into bread because he said that he could. He sounded about bread alone. Go to a high mountain. I give you all of this. All you gotta do is bow down and worship me, just like Adam and Avad did. Tricks, schemes. You know his playbook. You know what he does. There's no reason why you shouldn't have the victory every time. Right? But there's a reason why you got to stay on guard. And there is reasons why you got to stay suited and booted, right? Because Hasatan can be wild. He said, listen, put on the whole armor. Don't just put on half of it. Put on the whole armor. Don't just wear the boots. Put on your whole armor that you may be able to stand against the devices, the schemes, the wiles of the devil. For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities and powers, against rulers of darkness, and against rulers of darkness of this world, against spiritual wickednesses in high places. Know who you fighting against. You know, there are some things that Yahudah will make come to you just so that you can destroy. That's David. He says here, for we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities and powers, against rulers of the darkness of this world. This world is darkness. The United States is darkness. The snakes are darkness. They are not light. I don't care how much they call on Jesus. I don't care how often that, what's that woman name? I can't remember her name. Probably a good thing that I don't. The one that prays for the president. I don't care how much he called on the name of Jesus, the earth pig. I don't care. The dominion of darkness. These devils. These elves. I don't care. For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities and powers, against rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickednesses in high places. We wrestle, right? We wrestle, right? Wrestle is hand to hand, right? I mean, to wrestle is actually almost, it's like hand to hand, right? Let me do this. Wrestle. 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 Right? Merriam-Webster. To contend by grappling with or striving to trip or throw an opponent down off balance. See, that's the time he wants to keep us off balance. He wants to use imaginations to keep us off balance. He wants you to move according to what he says, what he suggests, right? He wants you to go off of his schemes, right? His tricks, the things that he's using to ensnare and deceive. Wow. Right? Right? We wrestle, we don't fight, we don't grapple, we don't contend. We ain't trying to get thrown off balance. We trying to throw him off balance. Right? But we wrestle against principalities. We know what they are. This is a spiritual, demonic, structured hierarchy that all have to be subject to a dominion, a power that is given to us who believe. He says here, Mark 16:16. He that believes and is baptized shall be saved, but he that don't believe is damned. And these signs shall follow them that believe. What are they believing in? Right? Where's that? Did I not? Did I take it? Did I take it out? Did I take it out? Did I take it out? What are they believing in? What are they believing in? Listen. But ye shall receive power after that the Ruach HaKodesh is come upon thee, and you shall be witnesses, and ye shall be witnesses unto me, both in Jerusalem and Judea and Samaria, and the uttermost parts of the earth. Right? Believe. He that believeth and is baptized shall be saved, but he that don't believe shall be damned. And these signs, this demonstration, this warfare will be examples of your belief. Right? And these signs shall follow them that believe in my name. Yah salvation, Yahusha, in my name. They shall cast out devils. This is a direct power over authority, over principalities and powers, and dominions and darknesses. That's why one will chase 1,000 that are born and believe and have power, and two will chase 10,000. There is power, exponential power, in those who are born again of the water, the Ruach HaKodesh, and walk in this warfare. She cast out devils, speak with new tongues, take up serpents, drink any deadly thing, shall not hurt you, lay hands on the sick. Power. No, go back. For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities and powers, against rulers of darkness, of this world, and spiritual wickednesses in high places. Right? He said, listen, wherefore take unto you the whole armor of Yahudah, that ye may be able to stand in the evil day, having done all to stand. You got to walk in Torah. He said, take the whole armor. Not part of it. The whole armor. So you can stand in the evil day. So you can war a good warfare. War, a good warfare. First Timothy 1:18. This charge I commit unto thee, son Timothy, according to the prophecy which went on before on thee, that thou mightest war a good warfare. War. A good warfare, right? War, a good warfare, holding amunah and a good conscience, righteousness, which some having put away faith have become shipwrecked. Right? He says here, Ephesians, stand therefore, having your loins girded about with truth. See, you got to be speaking the truth. Your loins, you have to bear in your loins truth. You have to be a man anchored in the truth. The truth of what? Truth of Torah. The truth of Yahudah. The truth of the word. Yochanon. You can right. You can 1 to 14. And the word was made flesh. You could have said the word, the Torah, was made flesh, and we were witnesses to it. Right? And dwelt among us, and we beheld his glory, the glory as it was of the only begotten of Abba, full of grace and truth. Having your loins girded about with truth. Having your loins girded about with truth. Right? Everything Yahusha did was for the truth. It was about the truth. He was the truth. Right? The word. He says here, therefore have your loins girded about with truth, and having on a breastplate of righteousness. Now you know, you have your vital organs. You know your loins is you're vulnerable in your loins. You know. Oh yeah. You're vulnerable in your loins, right? You're vulnerable in your chest, right? But your spiritual armor, right? That it covers your chest, right? Righteousness. Righteousness is a result of obedience. It's because when you walk in obedience, you are a demonstration of righteousness, right? If you live by the truth, then your demonstration will be righteousness, right? Right? And as in righteousness, right? There is nothing that can stand against you in righteousness. Because Yahuwah fights for the righteous. He says here, having your feet shod with the preparations of the Basor of peace. Right? See, you have to be able to bruise Hasatan's head. Right? Because he's bruised Yahusha's heel. You have to be anchored in this witness. Prepared to be a bearer of this Torah. Because in so doing, you are an assault to the kingdom of darkness. See, we are the kingdom of light. We fight for the kingdom of light. We wrestle in order to win battles to bring people into the kingdom of light. See, you have to have had this basora, this good news of peace. Right? I don't want you to declare a Torah of peace. He wants destruction. He says here, above all, taking the shield of faith. Above all, you got to believe. These signs will follow you. You have to believe that you have received power. You have to believe that whatsoever ye say, you have to believe, right, Let me do this. Say, right? Right? Matthew 21 and 21. And when the disciples saw it, right now, this is in reference to the fig tree that Yahushua had cursed, right? 21 and 18. Now in the morning, as they returned into the city, he was hungry. And when he saw a fig tree in the way, he came to it and found nothing thereon, but leaves only, and said unto it, let no fruit grow on thee henceforth forever. And presently the fig tree withered away. And when the disciples saw it, they marveled, saying, how soon the fig tree is withered away. Well, Yahushua said unto them, truly, truly, truly I say unto you, if you have faith, if you believe, right, and don't doubt, and doubt not, ye shall not only do what was done to this fig tree, but if you say unto this mountain, be thou removed and be thou cast into the sea, it shall be done. And all things whatsoever ye shall ask in prayer, believe, and ye shall receive. Power. Authority. Armor. Above all, taking the shield of faith, wherewith ye shall quench all the fiery lies, schemes, all the tricks, the stratagems intended to ensnare or deceive, right? The beguiling, the tricks, right? The skillful attempts to outwit, right? The lure, it says to lure by, or as if by a magic spell. Merriam-Webster, right? He says, taking the shield of faith, you shall be able to quench all the fiery darts, to quench all because your belief in the Torah, right? He says here, and the helmet of salvation. Why? Because if you have Yahuwah's salvation, right in your head, your helmet is to protect the head, the mind, the head, right? The soul. Salvation is for the soul. He says here, the helmet of salvation and the sword of the Spirit, which is the word of Yahuwah. The sword of the Spirit. Right. He says here, sword of the Spirit, which is the word of Yahuwah. Praying always with all prayer and with supplication in the Ruach. Watching thereunto with all preservation and supplication of the saints. Listen, your demonstration is 24/7. You got power. You have to believe you have power. You have a word, the Torah. You are righteous because you have an atonement. You have salvation for your soul. This is the only way you're going to get victory in this warfare. In this battle that's being waged, this is the only way to get the victory. Right? Got power. Wrestle not against flesh and blood. Right? Weapons of our warfare aren't carnal, but they're mighty through Yahudah. Right? Now, as you have been equipped with this spiritual power, it does not negate the fact that at some point in time, you may have to wage a natural warfare. It does not mean that someday you may not have to pick up a sword. Teach your sons and your daughters the use of the bows, Yahudah, and the weapons of war, as Jacob instructed us, in order to defend your brother. But we understand. We understand our warfare. Right? We understand the tricks and the wiles. We understand how he comes. We understand that we have keys, authority to operate in the name of Yahushua by the power of the Ruach HaKodesh, speaking a Torah. For it is written to demons and devils who come up to affect our imaginations or bringing vain imaginations. Listen, we got what we need to get the job done. We're fighting a spiritual warfare, and we're waging it until we go home. We're waging it until we go home. We're fighting a battle until we go home. Till Yahuwah gathers, takes us home. Till we leave this earth and go home. Till we leave this continent and go over to the other continent. Go to something. Warfare. Your warfare should count. You shouldn't be fighting for something that doesn't belong to you. You shouldn't be fighting for land and territories that's not yours. You shouldn't be invested in trying to extend your wealth in this land. They ain't gonna let you do it. But you can go onto the continent of Africa and build streams of wealth to benefit your people. Man, if y'all want me, y'all hear the word of Yahuwah. Hear the word of Yahuwah. Right? For the weapons of our warfare aren't carnal, but they're mighty through Yahuwah, Adonai, Yahusha, to the pulling down strongholds. Pulling down strongholds, right? I praise Yahuwah for being able to pull down strongholds. Put them down.
See streets cold, shadows creeping in the cracks. Talking big nose, but they folding like flats. Chest up, strong spot built from the storms. Bruce stand firm while the enemy conforms.
Bruce stand firm.
Torah in the face, fire
while the enemy conforms. Nation rise tall, let them feel the holy flame. Man, if y'all want me, I hit a word of Yahudah. I praise Yahudah, Lord, for the witness. The Ruach accursed, the water and the blood. Abba, I thank you for the word that you've given me to give to them. I pray that you will strengthen them, Abba Yahudah, in the name of Yahushua HaMashiach. I thank you for all that you do and all that you will do. Abba, let the words of my mouth, meditation of my heart be acceptable in thy sight. You are my strength and my redeemer. Man, if y'all want me, y'all called to greatness. Women of Yahudah, beautifully wonderfully made today, Yahuwah's favorites. We pulling down strongholds. We casting down imagination. Weapons of our warfare are carnal, right? Don't mean I may not ever have to use a weapon that is carnal, right? But the battle that we wage is here. With that, I say, listen, shalom, shalom, shalom,
Torah Garden, speaking the absolute truth. Torah Nation.